Welcome back to the Club Junkie Podcast. Hopefully you guys are having a great week. Another Thursday. I know it's late today. I'm getting this out late, but I was actually traveling all the beginning of the week, so I just got home late last night. Had to catch up with a few things in order to get this podcast going. But before we get going today, let's just remind you that this show is brought to you by Titleist. And listen, if you want to improve your game, a Titleist fitting experience is the fastest way to get better. A certified Titleist fitter can help any player at any point in their journey find the right clubs to unlock another level of play. Custom fitting is not just for better players. It's for any player who wants to get better. And honestly, most fitters will tell you, players with higher handicaps actually see bigger improvements than the better player. Your Titleist fitter will start by getting to know you and your game, you and your specific needs to drive the fitting experience. And every club you hit will be the exact club you will order. There is no guesswork or hoping that the recommendations will work out. I did my fitting for my T150/200 combo set, and it was awesome. We got to hit a ton of different shafts. There was just a million combos. We even kind of had fun and hit some stuff that we knew wasn't going to fit, but wanted to hit it anyway. But just a really fun atmosphere, really laid back, no pressure. It was awesome. So if you want to play your best golf, the first step is simple. Go to Titleist.com and find a Titleist fitter or fitting event near you. The Titleist fitting experience is the fastest way to get better. So hopefully you guys have a good week. I've been out of the I was actually down in North Carolina all week, or for the beginning half of the week, and it was awesome. If you haven't checked it out in the GolfWRX forums, we were doing a big member trip down at Pinehurst. Wilson Golf was kind of showing off their new Fit AI system, new utility iron, and they just had a bunch of stuff. We went and played the new Pinehurst number 10 that I don't think is even open yet, but just a crazy experience. It was a whole lot of fun. I'm going to talk about that after I talk about the club that I'm going to, in a sense, review. But I was down there, and it's just, when you do these member trips, they're so amazing. They're like, once in a lifetime kind of experiences for the forum members who get to go. And but it's long. It's 3 straight days of just go, and then it ended with playing Pinehurst number 10, and it's a tough walk. It was a long walk. We played it in the morning, and then basically got changed and took off at the airport and headed home. So landed here about 8:30, I think, and then I got my bag and my car, all that. Got home. I got home about 9:30, and I was beat between the sun and the heat and travel. I was ready for bed. So that was cool. Like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then, but before, had a club that I kind of didn't expect to go out and hit, and didn't expect to, I guess, in a sense, like as much as I did. But I've been kind of messing around with a new wedge. I don't think it's going to go in the bag because it's not the loft that I would want, but it is actually a really cool option, and this is the Vokey WRX L grind. So the L grind is a brand new, basically a brand new SM10 option. It's from Vokey WRX only. I think you can only order it online. But this is another low bounce option that's built for kind of firm conditions, or players who have kind of shallow swing, or players who really want to kind of manipulate the club face down there for their wedge shots. And it only comes in raw, so it's only a raw finish. It only comes in 58 or 60 degrees, and it's just straight on the WRX website. So if you go to Vokey.com, and you go on there, you'll see links for it, and you can kind of custom order your own, but you're probably not going to be able to walk into too many shops and just see these on the shelves. I think they're WRX order only. But you can also customize them however you want, and which is kind of cool. If you go through WRX, you can get them stamped. You can have little like hand grind options. You can change the paint fill, change the ferrule, change the shaft, grip. It's got tons and tons of options. I did went through WRX when I got my SM8s and did them totally custom, and they were awesome. They came out really, really good. So really cool setup. But these here, just come in raw, but they're a standard kind of SM10 shape, just a new L grind. And the L grind is basically a grind that Vokey created on tour. Guys like Max Homa, Brian Harmon, JT Poston, Cam Davis, a few of those guys they list on their website who were playing this. So it's used on tour a lot. It's a 58, so this would be a 58.04 L grind, and the 60 would be a 60.04 L grind. So 4 degrees of bounce on the 58 or the 60, and this thing looks really good. It's definitely in a sense, when I first read the description, I immediately thought like, well, the T grind is 60.04 T grind or 58.04 T grind. So, why do you need two wedges with the same bounce on them? But they definitely have a little different sole to them, even though they're both the same bounce, the same number in terms of bounce. This one here definitely is a little bit different than the T grind, and I kind of like grabbed them because I was like, man, what's really the difference? So I pulled them up, and you can definitely see if you're watching this on YouTube. I mean, the sole on the T grind definitely a little bit wider than the L grind. If you kind of look at them side by side, they're both basically got a lot of relief, but you can see that the sole width on the T is a little bit wider. So the L grind here was kind of described as just a low bounce. This is the Titleist words of like a low bounce option that plays more like a mid bounce option for some players, and it's very popular option for the player wanting greenside versatility with a touch of forgiveness. The forward bounce on this wedge reduces the dig, while the thinner sole and polished trailing edge allows the face to open and rest close to the ground, giving confidence to slide under the ball easily. And that was the big thing I noticed when I set them, when I kind of grabbed the tee, because I was like, I want to see the difference. And the tee just has a much wider sole when you look to it. Now, the kind of the peak of the bounce runs like kind of dead center through it, but the sole is definitely wider. Here on the L grind, it's definitely a little bit narrower, and it almost feels like the bounce on this L grind is almost pushed just back a touch on the head compared to the T grind. The T grind, kind of that peak of it is pushed just a little bit more forward, and on the back of that T grind is just way more relief. They really kind of polish that thing or grind it down, where there's still just a smaller amount of material to the T grind or the L grind. So the L grind there, to me, actually looks a lot like an M grind when you just look at it. I think if you were to like kind of hide the L on the toe of the club and just kind of hand it to somebody, the immediate thought would probably be M grind. The relief or the main part of the sole kind of stretches a little further from heel to toe than the M grind, but it has that similar look to it. It's a little bit narrower like that, just a kind of lower bounds version. So to me, this is kind of like a low bounds version of the M grind. So which the M grind is kind of low to mid bounce anyway. So I would say you'd go D, M, and then L, and those would all kind of play the same, just, lower, middle, or higher bounce. So, but a really good-looking wedge. I mean, again, from address, it's an SM10, even though it says WedgeWRX on it. It basically looks like an SM10. Almost no offset, has like, the very straight leading edge for being a 58. It's kind of got that same roundness and everything else of the SM10s. So an SM10, even though it says has the double W's on the toe, but it looks good from address. I love the SM10 look. It's probably one of my favorite wedges in terms of from address that I've ever seen. I think they just did a really nice job with this. But out on the course, taking this thing out, I was I'm always a little nervous around here. Where I play in Metro Detroit, typically everything's soft. We typically have, especially early in the summer, we get a little rain here and there, and anything that kind of says 4 degrees of bounce is a little bit intimidating to me. It's just that's not a lot of bounce to have on a wedge, and I'm a player who I kind of get over the top on it and I get a little steep, especially when you get into kind of some fuller shots and things like that, or shots that you just feel like you have to get under the ball. I tend to get a little steep with it, so I tend to kind of lean towards higher bounce wedges anyway. I'm definitely not scared of 14s and 12s and things like that. The higher bounce, that doesn't bother me, but 4 degrees, I get a little nervous about this thing kind of either digging or anything like that. But I do have to say, I was actually really surprised. I had to take out a little different wedge setup to play these, as I typically play a 50, 56, and then a 60. And that's just the way I've been playing wedges for a while now. And this was a 58, just as a media, when they get media samples out to us, sometimes you just, you kind of get what they have. And a 58 it was what they had, which was fine. I basically grabbed my SM9 54 D grind and took that out and paired it up with an SM10 50. and basically played a 50, 54, 58 wedge setup. And honestly, it's not that big of a deal. I think the first couple of 54, kind of closer to full shots, were a little bit long just because, it is 2 degrees strong or 2 degrees stronger than what I usually play. But my wedge game isn't that precise anyway, so I'm not going to necessarily blame the sole or the loft of the club. But going out and playing with this, I was down at, of course, Bella Vista, played it there, played it at St. Clair Shores, and actually really impressed with this L grind. I think it actually plays, how Titleist kind of describes for some players it'll play a little bit more mid-bounce. For me, I think I was kind of surprised that it did. For me, it felt like it played with more bounce than the T grind, especially playing a little more square. And again, I don't go crazy with opening faces. I'll open them a little bit. I don't play my 60 out of the trap very much unless I'm short-sighted. But I play most of my 60-degree shots pretty square, and same thing with the 58. And playing it square, to me, I felt it kind of played, a little closer to, my S grind in a sense. That's what I play in my SM10. It's a 10S. I felt like this kind of in a square position played a little bit closer to that. The leading edge stays down just a little bit more on this one than it does that S grind. It definitely doesn't come up very much, and when you open the face, it does stay pretty low. The T grind stays even lower. Like I feel like the T grind, the leading edge rarely comes up if you open the face really aggressively. With this one here, you'll see just a little bit more rise out of it, but it still stays really low. And if you're playing a super tight lie, I think you're still going to look at this and feel like you can get the leading edge under the ball with no problem. But playing square shots, I felt this thing actually got kind of into the turf and through the turf really, really quickly. With the tee, I feel like there's zero forgiveness there. If you catch it just and a hair fat, it's over. That ball's not going anywhere. It gets into the tee grind, gets into the turf, and it just it slows down, and the ball just doesn't go anywhere. Here, I felt like if you were just a hair behind the ball, you could still get that sole to kind of glide through the turf just a little bit more, and you'd get a little better shot out of that. And also, too, in kind of the lusher type areas, I didn't have as much of a worry of kind of sliding under the ball with this as I did, with the T grind. That was one thing with the T grind. When I got kind of fit out at TPI, I mean, that out there is just perfectly manicured and super tight. And the T grind was great. I could hit some really amazing shots with it, and I was really consistent. But then I come home, and if I hit it off the fairway, I'm fine. But I get into the rough, and mentally I just think, that ball may be sitting up just a touch and, getting under it. And with this, I didn't really have that same fear. After hitting a few shots, that first ball kind of was sitting up in the rough a little bit. I just kind of felt like this was a pretty easy transition. It got through the rough just fine. It didn't feel like it just wanted to sink in or anything like that. And I was able to hit some pretty solid shots out of there. Now, this thing out of the bunker is still actually really good. When you open it up, you can definitely see it's definitely got some dynamic loft on it when you open it up, and there's a decent amount of sole there that's going to present itself. And if you pull this thing out in the trap, you're definitely going to get some good float. Like, we play slightly firmer bunkers, so it's not as huge of a deal. I mean, you can have a little less bounce and still be okay. But if you're going to play some really fluffy sand, that either some country clubs have or down south or stuff like that, this thing here, I think should float really, really well through there compared to like the T grind, which, I mean, the T grind is not bad, but I was kind of looking at both of them and kind of opening up the faces and stuff like that. And this definitely has just a little more soul to it that exposes itself as you open it up. It's just kind of, especially through the center, through the center, it really kind of shows itself right there and is easy to hit out of the trap. Turf interaction, I'm kind of closer to full shots, which I don't hit, but I consider a full shot with this kind of like a 50, 60-yard shot for me. I mean, 3/4 anything with a wedge is about as hard as I go, except for maybe a 50. And this has kind of like, I feel like just a slightly more deadened or slightly more rounded leading edge than the T grind. And, with kind of that combination with the sole on those little bit of fuller shots, when it gets into the turf, again, it just kind of gets in and wants to kind of just glide through and get out. I don't think it's trying to necessarily pop itself out like the D grind does, but it's also not trying to dig or get down deeper or anything like that. But this thing here, like I said, for me, I don't open the face up super aggressively. I'll open it up a little bit on some shots that I may need just a little extra loft or try to put just a little more height on it to try to stop it. But for the most part, I'm just opening it up a little bit. And those shots there are super easy. I tend to kind of lean the thing back on the heel when I open it up, and it definitely opens up and keeps that leading edge down a little bit. But overall, just really good. I mean, the other thing too was being able on some of the tighter lies, like right before, like if you're kind of just off the green and have kind of a smaller landing area to kind of, I played just a touch back in the stance and kind of press the hands forward. And that shot there, again, it didn't basically take away too much bounce. You were still able to basically glide this thing kind of through the turf and hit those shots. And, it was pretty darn consistent. Feel is really good. It's a soft wedge. I mean, it's just like any other SM10. The feel of it's really soft. When you catch it a little, a little off the toe, a little thin, stuff like that, you're going to get a little more click to it, a little more audible sound. But for the most part, feel is really good. When you hit it center, it's got a nice thud, a nice heavy thud to it, and is very soft. Spin's great, like all the other SM10s. These grooves here, they spin really well, whether you're out of the rough, whether you're out of the fairway. Things definitely check up pretty fast and pretty hard. Now, out of the rough for us here, having more of that deeper, thicker grass, we see more release anyway. But I mean, it basically, stopping power wise, was very, very similar to my my SM10 60 degree. So very similar there. But yeah, I think this is a really versatile grind. I think this is something where, yes, Vokey says it's built for firmer conditions and shallower swings and stuff like that. But I do think that you can play this a little bit more than that. That's a little more versatile. You'll have some more options in terms of being able to play it in little softer conditions and things like that. It just doesn't. It's not like a one-trick pony. I feel like you can play it kind of in a bunch of different ways, and I think in a bunch of different players. You don't have to be a shallow swinger. You can still be steep and hit this and have no problems at all. But the new L grind is solid. I really like it. I liked it more than I thought I would. I thought I was going to just kind of go out there and it would be okay, and I'd hit a good shot here or there, but I'd kind of have to guide it in a way and kind of play it in a way that it needs to be played instead of just going out and playing my wedge game, and I didn't. I really played this just kind of the way I play, and just kind of hit the shots that I wanted to hit, and swung it the way I wanted to swing it, and it performed really well. So a good amount of and the other thing too is when you look at it and you kind of like look at the wedge, it definitely looks like more than 4 degrees of bounce. And when I looked at it compared to the T grind, it definitely looks like it has more bounce than T grind. So interesting enough, I think both of them are great grinds between the T and the L. Great grinds for players who really want to manipulate the face and hit different shots, get it up in the air, hit it higher with an open face, maybe shut it down and hit a more flighted shot. You're going to be able to perform any of those shots with either grind. I think the L just gives you just, to me at least for my game, it gives you just a little bit more anti-dig, gives you a little bit more float in the sand, and out of the rough, it won't quite slide under the ball quite as easily. So very similar in some ways, but I think for me, I think the T is more, it goes to the firmer condition, shallower player who really wants to manipulate it. And I think the L comes right after it. But if you're somebody who probably plays an M grind and in a sand wedge and kind of wants something similar in the lob, I think the L is definitely something to look at. Like I said, it's got a very similar shape to it, and plays very similar, gets through the turf quickly, just like the M grind does. So it does all those things really well. So the new L grind from Vokey, from WedgeWRX. If you go to, like as I said, Vokey.com, you can go on their WedgeWRX and see the L grind there. But I believe that's the only place to get it. But honestly, it's a really nice wedge. I really like it, and I became more of a fan of it than I thought. So I would think if this thing, actually what I should do is just bend it 58 to 60, and it could be another great option. But but a really solid one. If you're somebody looking for a new lob wedge and looking for something super versatile, the L grind could be something that finds a way in your bag. But check that thing out. It's really solid, and I think they did a great job with it. And right now, I probably like it a little bit more than T grind. If I had to choose and do one, I would probably take the L over the T. But so getting into the next part, before we get into it, just, also, have you heard of this company, Olukai? Olukai. It's 2 Hawaiian words that mean comfort and ocean, and their shoes deliver. They're making golf shoes now that are as comfortable as their legendary sandals. I've been a big sandal guy for a long time. Maybe you've seen them on the Bryan Bros or Grant Horvat, but take it from us, you will never want to take them off. Available in both men's and women's shoes. Waterproof leather and sporty styles. Spikeless. Get a pair now. Go to Olukai.com. Get yourself a pair. Extremely comfortable. Great traction. Fold down heel. Slide into them. Roll into the 19th hole. Grab a beverage and a snack and hang out. But really, really solid stuff. So Olukai.com. And yeah, the rest of my the show, I was down in Pinehurst. I flew in on Monday. We hung out with the Wilson folks, and then we got a big old kind of tech presentation on a bunch of new stuff, and then went and played Pinehurst number 10. So it was a crazy week, but very cool. Like I said, if you go into the forums under tour or pre-release and tour issue equipment, there's a thread for this Wilson trip, and we had 4 really great members show up. They got chosen and got to go, and it was pretty awesome. They got to check out all the new stuff from Wilson in terms of Fit AI. They got to hit all the irons. They got to hit the drivers. Got to hit the new staff model RB utility, and all that stuff was on display for them to hit. They got fit into some irons. And then they kind of did a kind of a mini driver fitting, just kind of hitting a few different shafts, getting kind of dialed in close. And then we had a good time. The Fit AI system, I will say, is way more impressive than I thought. When I heard about it and kind of saw it, not gonna lie, thought it was a little bit gimmicky. And then because basically it's just a sensor system on the butt cap of the grip. And being, kind of the, I wouldn't say old school fitter, but being a fitter or a guy who's been around fitting with, traditional launch monitors, I figure there's probably not a whole lot you can do with just a sensor on the butt cap of the grip. But I tell you what, it was very impressive to see this unit that they worked with Blast Motion and kind of put together. Was really, really impressive. It basically uses like a lot of G-force data and gyroscopes and stuff like that to kind of know where the club is, how fast it's moving, and things like, and kind of like where it's accelerating, where it's decelerating, and all these things, what plane it's on. You name it. And it was pretty impressive to see, because the first guy who got fit was going up and he was hitting some shots. And they basically, I think you only need like 6 shots or something like that. And he hit 6 balls, and it came back with a recommendation that was like almost identical to what he was playing in his bag. And I mean, it does lie angle, it does, shaft flex. I think you do like a quick wrist to floor measurement for a little bit of length, and it basically measures all these things, and it can basically tell if it's a good shot or a bad shot and stuff like that. And one of the people had a really poor shot, and it actually registered it and kicked it out. It was pretty impressive to see that it was able to do all these things from just this gyroscope data. But I honestly was impressed, because like I said, the first guy, it basically recommended, I can't remember what shaft it was. I think it was the True Temper, mid 115s or something like that, or maybe it was Dynamic Gold 105. It was one of those two. And he was like, wow, that's pretty much what I play in my iron set right now, that he had. And, he got fit for those. And it was pretty cool to see, how close all 4 guys, I mean, it was like the stuff they got recommended for was extremely close to what they were playing in the bag at that time. So it was pretty awesome. And then kind of got explained that, through basically the gyroscope data and all the data coming through this sensor, there's like a chart kind of behind the scenes, like a graph, and it can tell, if you're late release, early release, and things like that. It just has all that stuff in there. It uses basically G-forces to tell how fast you swing it, and that puts it in ranges of, stiff, X, regular, light. Just really interesting to see kind of all the data that this thing pulls. I think it's something like 12,000 data points. And then they've basically gone through and cataloged all the shafts, all the, everything else, so that way they can just basically dial in the fit on it. And it was pretty interesting. I was really shocked at how well it worked, and how much of that, and how accurate it was. I mean, how well it worked, how accurate it was. It was there, and it knew, basically they have, I mean, out of, I don't know how many shots they've recorded. I mean, they know basically just from the swing and all that, if you're hitting the ball high, medium, low, whatever. It's pretty cool to see. But I was really impressed with that, and to watch those members go through that fitting and kind of get dialed in, it was pretty cool. And then everybody got to hit the new staff model RB utility, and it sounded. I didn't get to hit it yet. I was there. I mean, I'm working, so I'm kind of helping out and doing stuff, and we filmed a bunch of it, so you're going to be able to see a bunch of it probably about a week or so. But watching these guys hit the utility, one, I love the look. When they sent in the utility for photos, it looked amazing. I thought it looked awesome. They did a really nice job with it. And then to actually see guys hitting it, the sound, I mean, it sounded like a forged iron. It was really soft, really muted. Everybody there who hit it said it felt great. Like, it felt really soft. It was responsive. You could tell where you hit it, but it wasn't harsh in any way. And honestly, the sound of it it had a thud to it that you were just really impressed by. And it's been totally redesigned compared to the previous utility. It's just a hair shorter heel to toe. It's got way less offset. They thinned up the top line just a little bit, and then just made sure that you could only see kind of just a sliver of the back on it, because that was one of the things that some of the guys there wanted to really do, was reduce that size of kind of like the muscle on the back, so you didn't see as much of it. And then it's got like a C300 steel face, which is hot, but it's also got some ribbing built into it, so that way there's not big hot spots or anything like that. So it's stable, and the ball speed stay consistent across the face. There's not some weird little spot on the toe that all of a sudden you'll blast one 15 yards over the green. But really a good looking utility. I'm bummed I didn't hit it, but I didn't have time to hit pretty much anything for the most part on that day. I hit a couple wedges later on, but that was it. But that part was awesome. Everybody had a really good time there, and then we moved over. Then we went in, had lunch. Then after lunch, went out, did short game stuff. So those guys all get to hit the new ZM wedges and try those out, and then also the staff model and staff model X golf balls and hit those. And I think that was one of the biggest things, was seeing how impressed everybody was with the golf ball. Everybody really. I think it seemed like everybody really liked the staff model X. Had a little spin to it, and checking up on this green that was just like, I mean, rock hard, crispy. It was late in the day, and people were able to actually put a little spin and put a little check on that ball from just hitting 20-yard type shots and stuff like that. But everybody was pretty impressed with those, and was basically taking them to the bunkers, moving over to different areas around the green, just hitting different shots, and then trying out the ZMs, and listen to the story of how those were put together, and how they use kind of the finish, the face milling, and the groove to all those things to kind of generate spin. It was just kind of a really cool thing. And again, I think I hit like one wedge shot, which was fine, but it was one of those things where, watching people who probably would have never picked up a Wilson wedge if they were in their pro shop or in their favorite golf shop, to be able to hit them and then go, wow, these are actually really good. It was pretty cool to see that they kind of opened their eyes to like how good the Wilson products really are. They did a little bit with putters. Showed out they had the milled putters in there, as well as the elites. So you got to mess around with those. Had a little putting competition. It was kind of the four members versus myself and three people from Wilson Golf, and we won. It was very it was very a non-sophisticated putting contest. It was basically first team to make it wins, and we actually won, but I didn't make the putt. Harry over at Wilson made the putt, but the milled putters, I tell you what, are really good looking. I think they did a really nice job with them. I'd never seen them in person. I'd only seen like some of the photos. I think like Greg took like last year of them, and up close in person, they looked really nice. They did a great job milling them. The weights look nice. The shapes are good. They kept them kind of classic. There's not an absolute ton, but I think they did a nice job. They feel soft. They sound good. Everything about them solid. And those elite putters, I mean, for being kind of a cast putter with a milled face, I want to say they're like $140 or something like that. They're pretty solid. They feel good. The shapes look good. The quality of them looks solid. They weren't, they have a black finish, and even the ones they had in this like demo bag, they weren't all chipped up and beat up. Which they, of course, did not have head covers or anything on at the time we got to them and all that. So, I mean, they really did held up well, and they looked really good. So, did all that. And then, we were done. Everybody went back, showered, went to dinner, and then the next day we got to play Pinehurst number 2. Well, first, before we even got to play Pinehurst, we got to go and the members they didn't know it was even happening, but they had a bag on the range with their irons built and then drivers and fairways kind of thrown in as well, as close to spec as they could, because they actually built all the stuff like at Pinehurst, and they didn't necessarily have every single component. I mean, they didn't travel with everything. So everything kind of built as close to spec as they could, waiting on the range for them in a custom white vessel bag with their name on it. I mean, it was like insane to walk on the range, and they got to like pull the plastic off the heads and all that stuff. It was really, really cool. So they got to do that. And then we got to go play Pinehurst number 10, and it was definitely a crazy experience. It was pretty cool. I think it went on their website that it opens in like 6 days or something like that to the public, but it's not open to the public yet. But we got to go, and it was an amazing course. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. The layout is really, really cool. Just a lot of really interesting holes. I mean, and stuff that just keeps you guessing. There was, if you're going to go play it in the future, I would suggest probably maybe doing a caddy, because there were a lot of blind tee shots that they basically told you the line to hit it on, or give you the yardage of where you need to hit it at what point and things like that. That definitely were helpful. And there's a few of those holes that I would have never known to hit it where they said to hit it, and it either looked way too right or way too left or whatnot. But it was pretty fun. I played in a group, so we played as a fivesome. I was kind of like a late addition. I originally wasn't going to play, and then they thankfully allowed me to jump out with kind of our second foursome. Now, let's just put it this way: I was the worst golfer by quite a bit. I think we had a almost +2, a +1, a scratch or +1, and then a 3 handicap, and then me, who was rolling around at almost maybe single digits. I fluctuate between 9 and 10. I think right now I'm like a 10.1 or something, 10.2. And the guy, overall, I'm like, man, these guys are going to be just playing. And then we get to we get up, and the starter gives the spiel, tells us all about the course and everything. It was pretty interesting. And he's like, you're going to go play the whites. And one of the guys like, nope, we're tipping it out. We're playing the blues. And his face was just kind of like, good luck, gentlemen, good luck. And I was just like, oh boy. Because from what he explained is that on the card it says 7,020 yards, but I guess the way it's the difficulty and all that stuff, it really plays like 7,300. And your boy here is not the biggest hitter, and I was the shortest hitter in the group by a good amount. So, I mean, the first couple holes, the first 2 holes, I played really well. Hit a great drive on 1, hit a great drive on 2. 3, I kind of like snap hooked it into the waist bunkers, and then it kind of turned into I made a mess of that hole. But it was just like I was hitting longer irons into greens than I've ever really hit. I mean, typically I play stuff at like 63 to 6,500 yards and stuff like that, but this was insanely long. There was, I think, 2 or 3 par 4s that were 470. One of them was 500 yards long. There was a 600-yard par 5 and a 271-yard par 3 that, I'm just not built for. So the par 3, 271, everybody's hitting hybrids and fairways and stuff. I hit driver. Actually, I made it pin high, but in the rough on the left. And then, the 600-yard par 5, Harry from Wilson Golf hits a drive that just goes an absolute mile. And then he had 281, I think, from the fairway. Hit 3-wood to 12 feet, like pin high. And I was just like, you know what? Like, this isn't, for me, I'm just trying to keep up. So I tried to keep up, the best I could. And I just made a ton of bogeys. It was just basically for me, I was just trying to get on 2-putt. I mean, everything was long. But yeah, if I was to go play that, there's no way I would never play that from the blues. I'd play it from the whites, but it was still absolutely amazing. The greens were tough. They had a real subtle undulation to them. And the holes were tough. I mean, you had to hit it in the right spot, and off the tee, you definitely had to be accurate. I actually, off the tee, I was pretty darn good. I had just a couple shots. Like, I had one like snap hook left that went into the woods, and that was like bad. And then a couple of them, like I'd hit like just a little gentle draw, and it was just I took the same line as the other guys, which I shouldn't have, and that gentle draw would take a bounce and go into kind of the waist bunker area. And I struggled out of that. When I was in the waist bunkers, I really struggled. It was just, I hit everything fat. I didn't do well there. But if I kept it on the turf, I actually hit a lot of really good shots. But driver-wise, I drove it well. And I hit some really good iron shots, too. I was playing the Dynapower Forged, and those things, I tell you what, are long. There was, on the 17th hole, which is like a par 3, I think it was a $170, or something like right about that, and I hit a 6-iron, which for me is usually 170, and I flushed it, and it hit the green, bounced over, and I was beyond the green on a hill that I ended up putting down, and then it rolled down to another little ledge, and then down again until you got to the hole, like where the hole was. And it was just one of those, when I first hit it, I mean, it was like everybody was just like, oh man, it's going to be so good. And I just flew it. Like, they definitely are long. That happened twice. I think the first iron shot into 1, I hit longer than I thought. Same thing, whatever the number was like the perfect, it might have been 7-iron. I think it was like 160, and I hit it, and I was in the back of the green. So those things are definitely long. They're definitely forgiving. But yeah, I would just missed it in just the wrong spots on everything. So yeah, it was interesting, but it was an amazing course. It was really cool. If you ever get the chance to play it, it's definitely worth playing. But we had a whole lot of fun. It was awesome. You're gonna, like I said, you can go in the forums, read a ton about it already, and then you will be seeing some pretty cool. We got some YouTube videos coming from the whole trip, kind of covering the whole thing, and it was pretty awesome. So huge thank you to Wilson. They put on an awesome event. It was really fun. All the members had a blast. I mean, I even had a blast, and it was a really good time. So thank you to them. They did an awesome job, and yeah, that was my week. So now I'm gonna go play my league tonight. I'm wearing the Sragla hat because the guys I go up north with for kind of Ryder Cup style event, they're doing the draft tonight. So we're doing the draft. We'll see what team I'm on, what number I get picked at. Instead of going to the draft, I think I'm going to go to my league and play instead, because I've got some travel coming up later in the week that I'm going to miss my league for at least 2 weeks this month, and so I should probably go play. But those guys are going to be doing that today, so it'll be exciting. I'll know what team I'm on, and we can start getting ready for that. That's going to be a whole fun thing, and have to put together at least 2 what's in the bags for that, because I'm bringing 2 bags. But super excited to see where things go with that. But that's all I've got this week. Hopefully you guys have a great week and a good weekend. Play some golf. I'm definitely going to play some golf this weekend with my dad, and it'll be a good time. But anyway, that's all I've got. And remember, if you're looking to improve, a Titleist fitting is the best way. Go to Titleist.com, see where a Titleist fitter or fitting experience is near you, and improve your game. So anyway, that's all I've got. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll talk to you next week.